Today I'm going to go through 10 potential expansion ideas. Now if you'd like to hear about the Dark Prophet and the Council of Glades, then click on the eye at the top of the screen because I very recently covered those potential leaks on the channel. Number 10. Let's start off with the Arse of Azeroth. We know very little about the backside of the planet. According to flavor text, ships do not return from the Forbidding or Veiled Seas. We know that something dangerous is in that region, but we know basically nothing about what that actually might be. It could be an entirely new civilization, but I think it would be pretty cool if it was infested with some crazy-ass old god activity. Perhaps there are one or two old gods that we are not aware of, lurking in a continent at the back of Azeroth. They would be a perfect explanation as to why all of the various ships don't return from that area. What the hell happened to those ships? Perhaps their crews are dead and gone, or perhaps they fall into the old god's corruption and now lurk just out of sight, ready to attack our world during the opening event of this expansion. Hell, we could maybe even meet up with some of the Watchers that we saved in Ulduar and they could help us cross the sea and actually get over to that planet. I think it's just a great way to explore that side of Azeroth, but of course old gods are not the only way. There are many other ways that they could get us to the back of the planet. Number 9. Let's keep up that maritime theme with the South Seas and get that out of the way. There are loads of islands between Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms that we know exist, but have not seen in the game. You've got Undermine, the Broken Isles, Zandalar, Tel Abyad, Kulturas, and many others. There are also many underwater locations, such as the Tomb of Sargeras and Nazjatar, which is the home city of Queen Ashara's Naga. And speaking of Ashara, well, she is one of the few remaining major threats that we have not really dealt with, and lore-wise she has definitely absorbed a great deal of power. Also, the Zandalari could always pop up again and interfere with us because their island is currently sinking, so they are desperate. And then, of course, we have the old god, N'Zoth. He is the guy who is responsible for Deathwing. He is the one who's responsible for turning the Highborn into the Naga, a massive villain, and we know he is in the sea. We've also got the lore with Neptulon and Ozomat that has not even been resolved whatsoever, so there is a lot that could be going on in the South Seas. This would provide a very different look and feel to Warlords of Draenor, and it might actually involve some real ship sailing and customization mechanics. Number 8. The Emerald Dream has long been a fan favourite. I used to not want it to exist because I thought it would just be one big forest, but that is not the case. The Emerald Dream is a copy of Azeroth in its natural, untouched state. Basically, it's a blueprint. Essentially, it would have just as much variation as the actual world itself, which could lead to many varied and interesting zones. The main threat of the Emerald Dream was dealt with in the novel Stormrage, but something could always crop up and Azeroth is still floating around, and obviously the old gods could be up to their old tricks because they always are. Or maybe the Titans could return, maybe the Burning Legion could find a use for the Emerald Dream, whatever. It's pretty easy to find a way to get us in there. But of course the main threat with Xavius has been pretty much dealt with. Now, there is a lot that could be done here as it quite literally is a clean slate. And also, even if the Emerald Dream was not to be an expansion, I can foresee it being a raid and endgame zone within an Old God expansion. The Old Gods clearly have some sort of interest in the Emerald Dream or the idea of it, so we could head in there to defend it against whatever threat should crop up. And I think that would make for a really fun and varied raid here that is a complete change in scenery from whatever that expansion might actually be. Hell, if the South Seas was focused on N'Zoth, then the Emerald Dream would be the perfect mid-expansion excursion. Number 7. Next up we have Argus. Argus is the homeworld of the Eredar, and it is right now at the very least a fortress world of the Burning Legion, if not their main stronghold. I mean, that's some Warhammer 40k shit right there. This world is varied. According to the lore, we know it's got snow-capped mountains, it's got deserts. That was all described in the Rise of the Horde novel. The home city of the Eredar, which is called Makari, is also there, and it is extremely cool. If you think Shatrath and Auchindoun are cool, this thing has got, like, crystals everywhere. Everything is made of like precious metals, diamonds, and all that crap all over the place. It is a city made by a race at the height of its power and then corrupted by the Burning Legion. How bloody cool would that be as a raid tier? I think it could be some of the coolest stuff that they'd actually put in the game. Now, this expansion would likely be one of the last for World of Warcraft in terms of solving its main current narrative, because the Burning Legion is most likely the most powerful enemy in the known universe. Well, unless the old gods are able to do something strange. Anyway, getting there would be tricky, but I think what would be really cool is for us, alongside the Naru, to invade it using a big-ass transdimensional fortress similar to Tempest Keep. I mean, hell, the Exodar is apparently repaired at this stage, so maybe they could even use that to launch the invasion. I just think that from a concept level, there is so much going for the idea of Argus, and I am totally down for it. Number 6. Xoroth is another kind of interesting place within the lore. We don't know much about it, but we do know that it is the home of the Dreadlords, and of course the Dreadsteeds. The Dreadlords are essentially, well, they are cunning tacticians, but they pretty much serve as the middle management of the Burning Legion. The main reason that I would like to see this either be an expansion, or probably more likely a part of an expansion, is because I would love to see Blizzard explore new worlds with new lore, rather than just the regular Azeroth and Draenor. Now, in the Culling of Stratholme instance, Mal'Ganis drops an artifact of the Nethrezim. Now, this has got flavor text which says, "This is one of the most alien-looking objects you have ever seen," which I think is a nice little nod towards Xoroth being this kind of far-off planet within the Great Dark Beyond. Number 5. The Return of the Titans is another major expansion theme that Blizzard hasn't really tapped into yet. The Titans are the spacefaring race of almost godlike beings who brought order to Azeroth and imprisoned the old gods, at least the old gods that are on our planet. Now, the Burning Legion is led by Sagaris, who, of course, used to be the champion of the Titan Pantheon, but he fell to darkness, madness, etc., founded the Burning Legion, has since been sort of tearing it up a little bit. Therefore, it is quite likely that the Titans themselves will have an interest in anyone who fights the Legion. I can absolutely see an expansion being themed around the idea of the Titans returning, and then us either heading off to fight some threat, perhaps the Titans leading us around and showing us some sort of threat on the other side of Azeroth, more nodding to that idea that I had earlier on in the video, or of course, there is the chance that the Pantheon could have fallen and that we'll be dealing with corrupted Titans, and I really like the idea of that. The Titans are not infallible. Sagaris himself, one of their greatest champions, fell to general badness and nasties, so it could be possible that the Titans have some sort of schism within them, and that war could spill over to our planet. This would allow Blizzard to essentially introduce a brand new threat to the Warcraft universe, because right now it's been old gods and the Burning Legion, and the various problems that they've created. Deathwing, created by the old gods. Lich King, created by the Legion. This could be something new and different. Number 4. Of course, I couldn't do a video on future expansions without talking about the return of the Scourge. Now, there are two main ways that this could happen. First of all, Bolvar could thaw out of his cute little ice cube and lose control. That would somewhat take away from the meaning of the ending of Wrath of the Lich King, but I suppose it is definitely possible. We do know that both Ner'zhul and Arthas were, for some reason, holding the Scourge back from their full potential and not attacking with the full force that was available to them. After all, we were told that the Scourge would run rampant across the world without the control of a jailer. And later on in a lore Q&A, the devs confirmed that they were perhaps not using the full potential of the Scourge and sort of hinting to, well, why? Perhaps we could find out in this expansion. Now, another possibility is Sylvanas. She has been doing some downright nasty-ass shit. She's been killing people, or things, and raising them as the undead, but not for the sake of conquest, no, more for the sake of keeping the Forsaken going, because, well, suffice to say, those bits have probably dried up. So they need some way to propagate their race, and for her that means killing people and raising them up. That is pretty Lich King-ish behaviour, something that Garrosh pretty firmly pointed out to her. Sylvanas also has a war with the Gilneans to deal with, and that hasn't even been resolved. So there is a great deal of unresolved plot surrounding these general themes. However, I find it hard to think about how they would really tie this into a brand new part of the game, because it doesn't really add a new landmass or anything like that. So we would just have to wait and see how Blizzard would implement it. Number 3. This next idea pretty much comes from the Ethereals. Now, the Ethereals are a really interesting race, and we haven't actually seen much of them since the Burning Crusade. They come from a planet called Karesh, which was destroyed by a massive Void Lord. The effects of the Void energy on the planet is what caused them to lose their physical form, and that's why they're sort of bound in those special wrappings. But there are a few different planets floating around the Great Dark Beyond, which we know by name, and we haven't really seen. And this, I suppose, does include what I mentioned earlier with Xoroth. We could have some sort of expansion where we go around and we visit these various planets and we deal with the threats there. Of course, this would probably be related to the Burning Legion, and what would be cool is, because you were visiting the remnants of various planets that were in a bit of an outlandish state because they were just wrecked, you would get some really cool and unique visuals, and it would allow them to, I think, explore some pretty cool high-concept themes, which I would like a great deal because I really like space, and I also really like the Ethereals, so I would love it if they were a playable race of some sort, probably neutral. Number 2. Next up we have Azul Nerub, but this does go into a wider topic. Azul Nerub was planned to be an entire zone in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, however they ended up squeezing it into 2 dungeons. Now there is a wealth of stuff going on down there, and with their leader slain, who knows where the Nerubians' true allegiance lies. Once again, our Old God friends are relevant, as are the other Akir races, the Mantid and the Kiraj, both of whom pretty much serve the Old Gods, so there's a lot of stuff that could be going on here with the descendants of the Akir. Now, speaking of them, well, the Kiraj have not been touched since vanilla. That is a good few years in terms of the in-game timeline, and I think there is a great deal of really cool stuff that could go on with them, because I really love that sort of Egyptian, corrupted aesthetic. I think it's extremely cool. Now, what would worry me about an expansion themed around these 2 races is that it's all underground. And I think that while the Nerubian and Kiraj aesthetics are a bit different, I struggle to think of other stuff to spice it up. Clearly though, I would like to see more Kiraj in the game, even if it's just a small raid tier or a small zone. Also, with the Dark Below expansion, which obviously was never a thing, it was actually something for Destiny, lots of people speculated about the idea of Azul Nerub, Undermine, the Kiraji stuff, basically anything in Azeroth that's underground mixed in with some of the South Sea stuff and really playing up the Old God Nashara sort of feel of Nazjatar could have happened, so you never know. Azul Nerub, maybe some Kiraj stuff, could actually pop up randomly, perhaps in a mid-expansion raid tier. Number 1. A Burning Legion invasion of Azeroth is of course a major topic for an expansion, and we do know that all signs point towards an invasion being imminent. During Mists of Pandaria, Rathian was preparing us for such an event, saying that an invasion would indeed occur soon. Post Warlords of Draenor completely ravaging the game's lore, I'm a bit unsure as to the status of Archimonde, but we still have to properly fight Kil'jaeden, i.e. not when he's stuck half in a portal. And speaking of portals, well, the Burning Legion generally needs a portal of some sort to summon all of its demons through, so a portal generally also needs a source of power. Where are we going to get that source of power? Because new expansions also require new zones. Well, they could get around this problem by having a large source of power be on another continent. Perhaps the other side of the planet. Maybe the Well of Eternity actually had a twin on the opposite side. Who the hell knows? It could be possible. We don't know what's on the other side of the planet. They could also do a split, adding a large multi-zone island somewhere within the current game map, and then doing a new version of a few key zones to the already known world, which would serve as some of the new areas in the expansion in their sort of post-invasion status. I think it would be likely for us to fend off the Burning Legion in an expansion, which would then prove ourselves to the Titans, and that will lead us into some sort of Titan-themed expansion. So that's pretty much what I think about some of the upcoming expansions. Of course, there are the specific leaks that I've already covered on the channel. If you're interested in them, then just have a look. I've got stuff on both the Dark Prophet and, of course, the Council of Glades. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.